Life.
live from the host of Babylon, from the back end of humanity, from the place where I thought people were into rights and taking care of one another, being humanists. I'm not saying I'm not saying that there isn't a reason why people are um, they have a self-interest in taking care of other people, right? But we still do it, right? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Love, Death, and Taxes. I'm gonna go crazy tonight. Hi,
I'm
Agnes.
afraid. I'm afraid.
Are you ready? Are you ready for this?
I don't know. You
This
didn't give me much choice.
That's right. My lovely Miss Agnes, Agnes Amisano, please, it's great to see you here again today. I'm Ryan Adil Williams. Normally, this show, Love, Death, and Taxes, well, it's still about that. It's still about love, death, and taxes. In fact, that's a great name for this particular podcast. Agnes, how are you feeling? How you doing?
Disappointed greatly.
Okay, right.
Disappointed greatly. Yes.
Hmm.
It hurt.
Right,
It hurt.
right.
Um, but unfortunately, with my point of view is I I I feel like whatever I will say, whatever I will do, it doesn't matter.
Ah,
Um, and I do feel like we are right now in a situation where we showing our children that guess what, the bullies doing, and that's not the right lesson. That's how I feel.
okay. But you okay. So you're talking about who you're showing it to and that sort of thing. Okay. I see that. I see that. All right. So first of all, let's talk about the fact that a lot of people are going to be upset about what we talk about today because they think, and that's why we did the partially why we did those three last shows: race, religion, politics. Can we actually talk about this stuff? I think, and I remember this used to be a thing. When I used to go looking for jobs, the headhunters would never want to tell you how much money you're actually going to make, and they would tell you, "Don't discuss that. Don't discuss that." And it happened to me over the course of my career. I went to a place two times, and the money that I discussed with the headhunter was not the money that they actually gave me when I got to the job. And
Mhm.
they always tell you, don't discuss this, and don't tell your other coworkers how much you make either. That was the other thing. Never tell your coworkers how much you make. And the
No.
reason why they say that is because if you happen to see, as a man, and I found this out as a man later on, if you happen to tell someone, especially a woman, how much money you make, and then they find out how much you make, and it's so much different and disparate, even though they've been doing the work 10, 15 years more than you, longer than you, it was a whole thing. And as a matter of fact, it wasn't until Obama came in 2008, 2009, I changed jobs. And at that law firm, they happened to be a labor defense law firm. So they have labor situations that they're seeing, and they recognize that things that were happening at their clients' offices was also going to happen to them
Hmm.
because people stopped keeping things secret. They started telling one another how much money was they were being made. And so all of a sudden they came to me. I was there maybe 6 months. And they came to me and they said, Ryan, yeah, right now you're making around 70K. We're gonna bump you up to 86. And it was simply because everybody else who was there was who in the same job, who was doing less work than me, was actually getting paid that. And I would never have found out because I would never have asked people, hey, how much money do you make? You just don't do that. You
Yeah,
just don't because it's part of the culture. You don't do that. But that culture protects people who are in power, the people. And I get it. I get it. Of course, I have a business, and if I had 20 employees, I wouldn't want them all to know what they're. But at the same time, I also think it should be that what they receive should be fair, right? Everybody should get a fair wage.
it should be fair, but I was in the same situation,
Mhm.
and I never allow it to have a big mouth, and I always stand up for myself. There is no way that like a man is going to make more money for my job. This is what I do. I know
Yeah,
my word. You
right.
don't realize my word, I'm walking. So simple as that. And you have to have enough guts to do that, to stand up for
To open
yourself.
their mouth and say something,
Yes,
and it,
because if people know that they can push
take
you around,
advantage of you, they will
that's it.
absolutely do it.
That's it.
And uh, um, I'm 51 years old. I worked through the 90s. I worked through the early 2000s. I worked through 2010s in other people's businesses. And I am telling you, yes, if they can take advantage of you back then, especially back then, they would, right? The
Yeah.
things I saw.
Oh, absolutely. I've been also told, do not talk to all the employees because because you're an accountant. So you are with us. We're with upper
Right,
management.
right.
It's like, well, why don't you pay me as an upper management? That's number one.
Abs-
Number two, I'm here dealing with everybody for the payroll, overtime, and all that. I do have to speak to everybody else. And no, I'm not better than anybody else. I'm
right.
coming in, I'm part of the team. I'm going to talk to everybody.
Of
And
course you
and
will.
I was straightforward about that as well. So they were taken aback because I was like, oh, th- I I hate when someone tried to push a position to put me in, oh, this is the title.
Right.
Like that's more important than money. Guess what? My bank's not going to accept my title for a mortgage payment. So keep your title, call me janitor, pay me for the job I'm doing. You know, I
That's right.
I don't care about
That's
titles.
right.
I really
That's
don't.
right. They could care
So
less.
call me cleaning lady. I don't care. Pay me for what I'm doing. So yeah, there are people like that
So
protect,
so I
and
say
plus,
all that.
yeah,
Mhm.
plus what they say,
Go
that you
ahead.
don't discuss religion, politics, and finance, especially in a close settings, because if you don't want to discuss that over Thanksgiving dinner, because the fight will break
Of course.
out and you lose your loved ones. So I keep that in place, just because not everyone from my close circle is looking at things from my point of view.
Well, see, even if someone doesn't see something from your point of view, that doesn't mean we should have to be at one another's necks. That shouldn't be the case. Like we should be able to have a conversation and
You
talk about
think?
something and not have it be like I know you're laughing, be like life and death, right? Oh my gosh, this is so. In fact, in truth and in fact, I know they made this very dire on both sides. They made it very dire. Oh my gosh, it's the end of democracy, or oh my gosh, it's the end. We're gonna lose this and we're gonna lose that. So they prep you up with a certain amount of fear because technically that's marketing. That's what that is. What are the benefits, and then what are you going to lose? What are you going to miss out on if you don't do the thing that you're supposed to do? And it backfired this time. Number one, it definitely backfired. But I say all of that to simply say that they don't want us to have this conversation that we're going to have now, this open conversation, because when I break down, and for some of you, I am so sorry. For some of you, this conversation is going to be unbearable. You're just going to be like, oh, this is a exercise in intellectuality or intellect. I can't help you with that. But that's what that's what this show is. It's an exercise in intellectual conversations, and hopefully that we can come together and have a conversation about things that move forward. And I know some of you are going to be really upset about the stuff that I'm going to say in a second. But here's the truth. Yes, I am disappointed, but I'm not surprised. And you're right. You're disappointed too. But were you surprised? Did you feel like, oh, this could not have happened?
You know what? I was so hopeful that
Hopeful.
that's I
Yes.
was hopeful, yes. So there was
Yes.
there was an element of surprise, but not shocked.
Okay.
It wasn't
Okay. All right.
shocking.
Because yeah, the way I felt was I was surprised in 2016. I just, but then we started to talk about, that's when we started to talk about silos, people only talking to one another within their own silo. And then we started talking about misinformation and disinformation. And that's when I started to understand that there are a group of people who see things in a completely different way because they are hearing only certain information. There was a woman who voted for Trump, and I found out later on that she had, and I was like really disturbed about her in particular because she was so good to me and my kids. Uh, White woman in her late 40s, early 50s, around that time, and had sons, like grown sons, who were me and them. Like when we talk, it's like we're vibing. We're like in the same.
Hmm.
And then when I talk to her too, she's very nice and whatever. But she went and voted for Donald Trump. And that's when I realized that people can love you, but still have themselves in a certain. She basically explained her family always voted Republican, no matter what. Okay, that's number one. Number two, from what she saw on Fox News and the other places where she got her media, he was the better choice. She didn't care about the uh, the grab them by the genitals thing. She didn't care about that. She didn't care about all the charges that were coming up against him because even then he was getting charges coming up. She didn't care about that. That wasn't important to her because she was so fearful about the other stuff that he talked about, namely immigration, because that's the fear of the other, and we'll get into that a little bit later.
Hmm.
Um, but that bothered her so much that she was like, "No, this just makes sense, and it's easy. It's easy. White woman in her 40s, 50s, suburban, not college educated, but very intelligent and bright woman. When you talk to her, I love her to death. To this day, I love her to death. But in my mind, I felt so betrayed by her in 2016. And I started to understand. Like when she explained it to me, I was like, oh, I get it. So I'm not surprised anymore. I understand. I understand how people will be hearing things that are not true and believe them. I understand how people will see a disconnect between the fact that there are now 6 Supreme Court judges that will take away all of your female rights, and then there are going to be more. They're going to be probably
Oh
two
yeah,
more. All right,
yeah.
yeah, because those guys are gonna. They're going to wait till next year. They're going to hold on. There's 2 older guys. They're going to hold on to next year, and then they're going to retire, one after the other, and then you all can put on your handmaid's tale because we're going to ship you off to Goshen and use your bodies for only.
For me, it's too late. But I hate to see young kids,
Don't know what's going to
growing
happen.
up in that kind of environment. I mean, at this point, it's going to look like my granddaughter is going to have less rights than my mother had.
I
So,
think this will course correct itself. The truth is, here's the truth. Uh, Trump cannot live to 100 years old. Okay, right? He's gonna be 80, I think, next year, right?
Just ask
Well,
him. He's
you know
gonna
what? I should
tell you
shut
he's
up.
gonna
Maybe
be
he can.
150.
Yeah, I should shut my mouth up because the truth is, technology is amazing. There used to be this cartoon show called Futurama where they would take the heads of the presidents off and put them in a
Familiar
jar.
with that, yeah.
and so it's quite fun. And Nixon was still president. It was like year 3000, and Nixon was still president because they had his head in the jar. Anyway, um, I think much of this will self-correct itself. I think the people who are going to go in beside him, this is for show too. But anyway, I think the people who are going to go in beside him are eventually going to have to pump the brakes on certain things, or they'll all be breaking the law. A lot of things that happened in the last time, uh, people are dissuaded from doing those things because they got penalized. Rudy Giuliani owns nothing. Right?
That's another
Um,
story. That's another show. The men that I used to respect dearly. I mean,
a
I
lot of
really
the
I used to
January 6th
respect him. Yeah.
people, exactly. He
But
owns nothing. He owns
yeah,
his grandfather's watch, pocket watch. I think that's what he has. Like they
yeah.
left him that,
He
but
will.
everything else
He will
goes.
survive. He will survive. I'm
You're
sure he
right. You're
will.
right. He will survive. People will give them money. That's no question. At one point, Trump could not pay his attorneys because it was so much legal fees,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden that has disappeared. That's gone away. Right? More than likely, his
Listen, the problem is we don't attract right friends. Okay,
tell me about that.
we don't attract right friends. Um, what is it, sticks and stones and whatever. Like you the, the type of friends that in the type of environment that he keeps around himself, surrounding himself. He's self-promoting himself. So now he's in a position of power. So of course money are coming and other people are coming because whoever has money, they need
Right.
more power. So they're coming
Right.
to him, they're being drawn to him. So you and I, we don't have luxury of um having that kind of energy around us to draw that kind of people and say like, listen, hey, I'm short this week of $5 million. Hey, no problem, there you go, this is a gift.
I we need different friends. Okay, I get it.
Yeah, we have different friends. And I believe that such a the big aspect of him winning this time, it was the immigration. I think she did not talk enough about it. All the steps were taken throughout this presidency. When there was a moment when the bill supposed to be passed through the House and Senate, and Republicans stopped it just because they needed to use that as a running platform. So
Not just Republicans. He
yeah,
specifically went to the Republicans and
yeah, you
had it
told them
stopped
not to
so
do
that
it.
it could,
Yes, yes,
so that it could
yeah,
continue to be an issue.
yes.
Absolutely.
And that was on the news. It seems like everyone around just put the different glasses on and covered their ears and decided not to hear that. They said to forget about that. So they use
Yeah.
that because there is overwhelming problem with illegal immigration. I agree with
Yeah.
that, and there
Absolutely.
are
I agree.
there are ways of dealing with that. And you know, even prior presidents, there were big numbers of deportation every single year from
Yes.
Long Island alone.
Yeah.
Long Island alone, it was during Obama 1 year. I think during his last year, it was over 900 people deported from Long Island alone, and
Yeah.
people don't talk about it.
Yeah.
It's not free for all. This is not I'm buying a ticket and coming in and I'm going to take your job. Eh, Anyhow, we can talk about that.
Listen,
That's
there are
another
so
thing.
many.
You know,
Uh, Agnes, there are so many issues, but I'm going to tell you something. I don't think we're talking about the actual issues. They don't take the issues into account. They don't want to hear anything from what they think is the traditional media. They believe there was a time, I met with like 3 or 4 different QAnon conspirator people, and they explained to me that I had been brainwashed and that I had Trump derangement syndrome. In other words, everything that he says and everything that he does, even though that stuff is bad, I am either upset or find it abhorrent too much. It bothers me too much. I was like, wait. We do have morality, right? We have like, this is right, ethics, and this is wrong. This is evil, right? That's ethical. This is not. But they were like, no, you're way too worried. You're brainwashed, and you can't think of anything like that. And I got to tell you, there are it the factors, the actual issues are less of what is important. I think this is more about um, the cult of personality in a way. Um, he was never going to go to jail, and they knew it. I knew it. I knew he was never going to go to jail because he's a former president of the United States, and you can't put him in jail. And then there are people around him who are criminals who could either coerce him to do things or find out information from him that couldn't be. So he, at the very most, he would be sequestered at Mar-a-Lago with like the thing around
Yeah.
his leg. Yeah, some one of those bands or whatever. So that was never going to happen. But I knew that. But they see that the fact that he is now going to get away with everything because once you're president of the United States, they will not go after you while you are in office. They're Jack, what's his
Yeah.
name, is actually pulling that right
Yeah.
now. He's wrapping up the whole thing and gonna toss it away. Trump will be out of office and or pass away as an old man before they are
Yeah.
able to go
Oh,
after him for
absolutely.
these things. And so I knew that that was never going to happen, but his followers see the fact that he is Teflon, that everything just brushes off his shoulder, as more of the reason why he is correct and he is the man. And it's great. That's one thing. The other part that I want to talk about is the fact that they want to be right. They all want to be correct. They were basically proven wrong on January 6th. January 6th not only said these people are wrong, but they're basically traitors. And everybody looking at that, like as a normal person, saw that that is not cool. That's not cool. Most people were like, that is not cool. But, and this is the problem with humans, right? The further we got away from that date, the less and less that was actually important, right? So, again, the issues. But by saying January 6th was a crime, and a crime that should be technically punishable by death, because that's what treason is.
Reason.
It's
Yeah.
supposed to be
But the
punishable by
people
death.
are in jail. A lot of people are
Yeah.
in jail.
Oh,
Yeah.
and many of them were praying because I saw them on TV praying. CBS, a couple other stations. They're like, "Babe, please let him come back in because he will be able to
Release them.
give
Yeah.
them." Yeah,
Anyway.
and
Yeah.
honestly, I don't know
Pardon.
why he
Yeah.
didn't do it the first time. He didn't do it the first time, but he did it. He's gonna do it now. We'll see. We'll see. And people are in their homes, can't leave their homes, and are hoping that he comes in and will give them, let him okay. But not just those people who actually were coerced into doing that, they were brainwashed into actually going and doing that. But the people who were around him, the people who here on Long Island, friends that I know, who are like, that's a little bit out there. They are happy to now win again, get the idea that now he's right. He was right. and I'm right because I voted for him and he won. So that the desire to be right and make a correction from January 6th is absolutely a powerful draw to make them go and vote. By the way, just so you know, 73 million people, 73 million as of today. It could be, but
Yeah.
73,500,000 plus people voted for him as of today. The last time when he was against Biden, it was 74 million. So meaning he basically got the same number of votes, maybe a little less. Biden, on the other hand, got 81 million votes, trouncing him by 7 million. Kamala got 60 something votes, 60 something million votes, meaning the people who came out for Joe Biden, the electorate, did not come out for Kamala. So
Okay.
we're looking not only at the fact that there were more people who voted for him, because that's not really what happened. It isn't more people. It's the same number of people, and probably the same people who voted for him. But the people on the other side were either sitting it out or decided they weren't going to vote for, or they changed their mind, like the independents or whatever, changed their mind and decided to vote for him instead. It's amazing to see when you check out the numbers. And that's all I'm really, I have some theories, but really the important thing is to look at the numbers. We're numbers people, as counting.
Yeah.
But that drives me nuts. Women, I'm going to move to the next step. January 6th and the desire to be right. Next thing is women. Women do not support women in positions of power. They don't. Let me get the numbers. I'm getting the numbers. Because it's like 55% went for Trump and 43% went for her. Women in general. That's crazy.
Are you telling me the sisterhood is not as strong?
Sisterhood is not there. They're not. But I will tell you this, though. I will tell you this, and we'll talk about this in the next half hour. There is a movement called the 4B movement, and I don't know what the B actually stands for. It comes from Korea, where it's women who are deciding they're not sleeping with their boyfriends, they're not having sex, they're not going to get married, they're not going to have children. Those are the four things. Those are
That's
four
it.
things.
Yeah.
And they're saying that it is catching. It's getting here because apparently they found out that a lot of people who they're sleeping with voted for Trump. But I gotta say, women, it's not your men's fault. It is you girls' fault.
Oh, please.
Yes, it's you, because you are 50% of the population. How are you? You can't tell me you didn't register to vote, so I didn't feel like getting to register. That's disappointing.
No. I truly believe that's when it comes to women, the immigration was playing a big role for mothers. Where they're looking at, especially mature women, there will be there where the kids, their grandkids are growing in, and they don't want to have certain people around the neighborhood.
I'm kind of hearing what you're saying. It's not just immigration. It's more about crime, right?
It's about crimes.
It's
Yes.
immigration connected to crime.
Yes.
That's what
Yes.
I'm hearing what you're saying. And I'm not saying no, but I'm going to tell you again. I believe this. They do not trust other women to be
You're absolutely right.
Okay. They don't
You're
like it.
absolutely right. Let me tell you, I walked into the new office, and the first thing is,
Who you?
it's like, oh, you using your sexuality to get to where you're going. Okay.
Right away.
It's like, God forbid.
Distrust?
Yeah. you wear heels,
Manipulation.
yes, and you have certain, a nice dress or whatever. Oh, or you're smiling to people. Oh no, that's what you're using. It's not your fashion sense. It's not your intellectual. No, you're doing this. So I broke I broke this barrier by walking to the office, and it still stayed with me. As soon as I touched that handle, smile on my face. Hello, darling. How you doing, beautiful? You look so gorgeous. Although the woman's like, whatever. It's still like either give them a pause or a smile or whatever. And I broke through. No matter how they
No matter
look
what.
at me,
Exactly.
let everyone know that this is me. I'm not gonna change. I don't care what you think of me or how you're looking at me. You're going to sooner or later you will find out who I am. Life would have been so much easier if women
But I feel
would
like
have
there's so
been
many.
wings in their wings, in other women wings, than just and then the weights holding them down, pulling them down.
They don't.
Absolutely.
They don't. It's. Yep. And I got to tell you, I'm familiar with it because as a person, a minority, many of us do that to another, and I can recognize those behaviors. I can see it. Sometimes I walk into a room and the one black guy there is unhappy that now there are two black guys. I personally am usually happy that there's another black guy there, but there are people who are like, oh no, now I got to share the spotlight, or now I got, you know what I mean? And so it's very interesting. I'm telling you, based on the numbers, because there weren't any more voters, less voters showed up for her, and the majority of women voted for Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And
what
so
what
when
she
I hear people talking about the 4B movement, they're not going to give their boyfriend any nana. Uh, I'm like, women, look to yourself. Look to yourself. When I hear about what is it called? There's a name for it. Political lesbianism. There literally is a name. That's a real term. Know that.
Okay, I'm not really up to date with all the terms of everything,
Okay.
but
You're
it
not gonna
was
do that.
looking from time perspective, she was very charismatic. She was
Yeah.
delivering her message very nicely. I mean, she grabbed
Okay.
my attention and I was really hopeful. Looking from the time perspective, see the platform, whoever established her platform, it should have been added a little bit more because we've just mainly abortion, which is very doesn't mean you have to do it, but the
Mm,
choice should have been there. I'm all for it. um but there it comes, to the religion and morality and everything
yeah.
else, and women
Exactly.
are more sensitive,
Exactly.
so
So
it's
that's a
again.
two-edged sword. It's a double-edged sword, right?
Yes,
Because
yes,
yes, there are some women who'll be like, yes, I do want to have full control of my nana and do whatever I need to do with it and whatever. And if you're under, say, 40 years old, that is a big deal, right? If you're over that and you're heading into, you know, menopause, or you're not really thinking about that anymore, or you're not thinking about your daughters or your sons, maybe you don't even have any, that no longer becomes a thing for you. It's a very different thing. But I do want to dive into that too, because there's a whole religious aspect of who he is and what he does. The guy survived one, possibly two assassinations. Okay. And while that shouldn't be a factor, I think a lot of people looked at that and thought, especially religious people, looked at that and thought, oh my gosh, they tried to kill him. They tried to kill him. But no, he is. In fact, I saw a thing from a guy, and there's a whole movement about this. I saw a guy talking about the fact that the prophecy has been fulfilled.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I
And
saw that.
yeah, the prophecy has been fulfilled. And what will happen now is he will be changed. Like they expect that he is going to change and become a different person now. Like there's going to have like a Saul movement where the and for those of you who are not who don't know anything about this story, there was a man who used to persecute Christians in the early days of Christ, and this is in the Bible. This is a story from the Bible, and uh, he was struck as he was going. God struck him as he was going to go and persecute this one guy, and he was blind. And then he found religion, and the scales that made him blind fell from his eye, and all of a sudden he could see. But not only, he understood spirituality, and he was good, blah blah blah, blah. But he was a powerful person who then became even more powerful because he wrote all these letters to people all around and helped to spread Christianity. They think that Trump is going to become this type of person.
It's going to be another story, and I already have assumption about whom. I have my eyes on. I'll tell you afterwards, and you tell me later on with time if I was right. That's going to be another. He was trying to fool around here or there or whatever. It's look. He is who he is. He's not changing.
He's
He's
not
not
changing.
changing.
I don't expect him to change. He's going to stay exactly who he is. And this, I know that all of the tensions around his so-called prophecy have been heightened because of what's happening in Israel and Gaza and
In
in Lebanon
Russia,
right now.
there is also a cult, Putin's cult.
Yes,
There are women that they worship him
they worship him too.
for whoever he is, the way he
Yep,
looks, and then they evolve to love him, and then whatever, whatever,
yep.
whatever. It's like,
It's just a thing. It's disturbing.
well, I
I
have a
I
discernible
want to go
part,
into the
but
other. I want to go into the two. I have two other points that I haven't even touched. But you're right. It's not just the crime, the immigration and the so-called crime, the fear of the otherness, right? The possibility that the country is being lost to brown people, to immigration, to foreigners. Meanwhile, America is a country of foreigners. That's really what it
it,
is. But I understand you worrying about crime. Like you don't want crime. Nobody wants crime. I get that. But in their mind, they're thinking, okay, she's half Jamaican, half Indian, and she is going to let everybody in, or she's just not going to be as strong as it on anybody as everybody else because she's a woman. There are all these
that
things.
that was I heard several people saying that they don't
She's a,
think that the woman can handle it. That was personal insult to me. Second
oh,
of all, there's a lot of
misogyny.
repeating misinformation as, oh yeah, open borders, that people don't even know what open border
Me,
is and how
exactly.
people can come here. There's still a lot of misconception that people are just coming, they think they're buying a ticket and coming in and just walking out and staying here. Either people don't travel or they don't, they simply, there's a lot of misinformation, there's a lot of education lacking in a lot of places.
Yep.
and and yes, people are scared because, oh yeah, we already know him, what he did, so yeah, because I don't. Or there's another thing. She was already there. Why didn't she fix it? She was the vice president. She's a
She's a
vice president. How much can she do? The
okay.
same thing as
Exactly.
Mike Pence was able to do when this one was going nuts before. So it's again a lot of misinformation and lack of education of yeah.
Yeah.
Now I'm
Yeah.
getting frustrated.
But
So
what I'm saying to you is, it's not necessary. You're looking at the issues and talk about the issues, but I think there is a psychology to the people who want to vote for Trump that caused this, and basically a psychology of the nation that is basically like, I'm gonna sit this one out. It'll be fine, and that was a mistake. I actually
yeah.
started thinking that way myself I'm here in New York. I know New York is going to go to her. But the truth is, Suffolk County, where we live, normally for the last two elections has gone to Trump.
Yeah.
So I vote no matter what. I go and vote. So I went and I voted just in case. But also, it's one thing people say, "Oh, my vote doesn't matter." It does, though, because in this particular election, not only has he won the Electoral College, but because people sat out and did not vote, he has also won
The
the
popular vote. Yeah.
popular vote. And
Yeah.
so it's important that you vote because you need to at least give people the impetus to do away with the electoral college. Because personally, that's one of the things I want to go to the electoral college. Give people the impetus to remove the electoral college. And this is the first time in 20 plus years that a Republican has actually won the popular vote. They don't win the popular vote. They only win by electoral college normally. Man, Hillary beat him by millions of votes and still lost the election. Joe beat him by millions of votes. He happened to get the electoral college because of these swing states, these battle states.
Mm-hmm.
But she lost handily because people did not come out to vote. I'm looking at you, women, because I promise you, it was you, young men too, young men. There was a whole conversation. Oh, black men are not going to vote for her. Blah 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 blah. 77% black men voted for her. No question. We just did.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, oh my gosh, this is the greatest thing. I should have started this at the beginning. If you're an idiot, and I'm going to call you an idiot, I'm sorry. If you're an idiot on Facebook, don't write stupid. Be quiet so people don't know you're an idiot. When you type things into Facebook and I can see them, now I know you're an idiot. And if people are looking, Ryan, you're being intellectual or whatever. You're being an intellectual snob. No, 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 no. Type it into Google and get the answer. Don't write things like, why is the media being so divisive? How do they know who voted for who? What do they mean? They're trying to break up families between white men and white women. Don't write that into your Facebook post and post it so that I can see it and recognize that you're an idiot. Write that into Google. And so Google will explain to you what exit polls are. Because when people leave the polls, maybe it didn't happen to you, but when people leave the polls, there is exit polling. And they ask them, who did you vote for? What did you vote for? What did you vote? Where they know where you are. They see where you came in and out. And they can see you. They can look at you. They can see that you're a white woman or you're a white man or you're a black man or you're Asian or you're Latino. They can see it. But you're also supposed to mark it on the thing because there's a whole thing about Hispanic whites versus whatever whites. Right? You mark it. So that is how they know. Dum dum. Okay? I hope he sees this.
I like when people write what they think because then I can print it out, put it in the album, and hold it close to my heart forever and never. So when they're trying to say, "Oh no, I didn't say that," guess what?
Just click it. Yes, exactly. I save things too. I save them on my phone and I put them in. I know I'm petty for that.
I print everything out and put everything in a nice album. Shadow side, thank you.
Yeah. Please, please, internet, don't go into my photos that Google.
Let's go, Ryan.
I have all the receipts. You know what? It's crazy. It's crazy. All right. So, wow, that was a long one. I wanted to go long. I kind of wanted to talk about all this stuff. I felt like we've talked about most of it, but I do want to say basically, I don't have any problem with you voting for whoever you voted because I kind of understand It's not because you're stupid or so, but I do feel as though people have decided to prioritize certain things. By the way, the economy is a big deal. The economy was a big deal.
Huge deal.
You and
Yeah.
I, we're
Yes.
blessed to have roof over our head, but there are people who are struggling out there. In fact, I'm not even saying I'm not struggling. I'm struggling. I'm not where I want to be. So it's gotten difficult. But I will say that my business has grown in the Biden Harris years. It hasn't shrunk. It's gotten better. So I think a lot of people, are worried about the inflation, but they have to understand where that came from. We had COVID, and then they took all this money and gave it to us, and we had extra money to do extra things, and then a lot of wages went up. And when that happens, and you have more money than you have goods, because that happened too. We had several times when weren't enough goods, but there was a lot of money going around. And that continues to happen with the housing market. That is when inflation goes up, because people have to find another way. Businesses have to find another way to make their money, and what they'll do is they'll increase the cost of things,
Yeah.
not necessarily because they feel like they really, really need that money, but they can get it for that. So they inflate the price of things. It's not normal inflation. It has been bad, but it's not necessarily caused by um, what Joe Biden and Harris did. It's part and parcel of, you know, COVID, but also, by the way, people, let's talk about this for a second. When a president comes in, that first year, those first 2 years, that economy does not belong to that president. That economy belongs to the president before him. I remember when Obama came in and people were like, he's horrible, hey, blah, blah, blah. But he was the guy who had to come in and clean up the and people hate this, that he bailed out the banks, he bailed out the auto manager, he did all of that. But by the time we hit the third or fourth year, the economy was booming. Everything was, we were doing really great. And by the end of the eighth year, we had marked down some of the deficit. That is true leadership. Every time Republicans come in, the deficit, I think he doubled the deficit when Trump came in. Listen, if you don't want to pay attention to facts, I understand. I completely understand. But you can't sit here and and gaslight me about what is actually happening, because what is actually happening is clear for everybody to see. Just say you don't
Unfortunately,
care about that.
yes. Unfortunately, we're dealing with a lot of people
Mm-hmm.
who just will, from whatever you say, they will pick few words and say, "Oh, so you mean,"
Yeah.
and turn everything upside down. There's a lot of people that they have selective hearing and
Yes.
selective
Memory.
understanding because that's
Mm-hmm.
what suits them.
That's
And
what they
there's
want
a
to do.
lot of misconception and a lot of problems arises because of that way of thinking. It's
Yeah.
like they will hear part of the sentence, but because it's not suiting their purpose of the whole
Mm-hmm.
conversation, the other part, so they choose to cut it out, wipe it out, and
Yep.
just, and then attack you with whatever it suits them.
Whatever else
um
is there.
I cut those type of people out of my life, just because they are not, the aggravation is just not worth it of anything.
Yeah,
They are not worth it of my emotion.
it,
So no.
it's good. It's going to be just difficult for you. And by the way, I'm not telling people it's 49 minutes through, so we're just gonna go for the hour, okay, Agnes? I'll cut it up later. um, I'm not telling people don't talk to your family. I'm not telling people, hey, Thanksgiving is coming, be a jerk when it happens. In fact, I'm hoping that people will not be that way. But I am done listening to these excuses and these things where we're not supposed to don't talk about politics because people are going to be sad or you're going to get upset. um, the the text messages that right away, as soon the text messages that black people are getting, greetings, you have been selected to pick cotton at the nearest plantation, be ready at 12 p.m. sharp with your belongings, our executive slaves will come get you in a brown van, be prepared to be searched down once you've entered the plantation, you are in plantation group S. They're
What?
sending those text messages to people as soon as he became president. He was elected. They
That is
started sending it. Yeah, and it's divisive, and and they're like, oh, it's just a prank, and it's funny. They're gonna track you down, and they're gonna figure out who it is. But I'm telling you that people forget what it was like for those 4 years. You remember every day you would wake up and you're like, what has happened now? It's coming again, and he hasn't even started. It started, and it was nationwide. Black people were getting that. They figured, by the way, they figured out that they were black. They figured out that they were young. Young is mainly young people, black people who they were sending this thing to. They're getting this text message that basically says, "Hey, show up to the plantation tomorrow." Can you imagine? That's the kind of thing. Like, you can't tell me that there's not a certain amount of divisiveness to the man. You can't tell me that there's not a certain amount of ire that he inspires. And
he
for that
inspired him
alone,
for things to go backwards, to go backwards,
yeah,
cutting down on rights, cutting down on choices.
yeah,
Um, everyone is, America was famous for the freedom, for
yeah,
freedom of speech, for freedom of living. So everyone could be whoever they want to be. And the one thing is, like, for me, the moral code: don't hurt others.
others,
Okay, live what you want, love is love, love who you want, marry who you want.
right?
Just don't hurt one another.
Don't hurt people,
Okay,
right?
so
Whether
that's
you want
like
to see
our
this
true
as
danger.
being religious or not, it's like
Yeah,
do unto others as you would have them do
yeah.
unto you. As long as you can do whatever you want, be as free as you want in this country, as long as you're not impinging on someone else's freedom. And that has always been a thing. Now, when you're sending me text messages telling me to report to the plantation, that the mother, you have to see the mother of the kids who get it, they're pulling their hair out.
Yeah,
They're freaking out because they're like,
absolutely.
how dare you send this to my child? You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Yeah. Me, I, I'm in IT, so as soon as I would get something like that, I'd just swipe and delete it. But I would be really upset if they sent that to my kids.
absolutely.
That would disturb me a lot because I feel like now you're messing with them. They're not going to want to go outside. They're not, they're going to be scared.
Everyone has different personality, and people
Yeah,
that are not as strong as you, they will feel, um, they'll feel
disturbed.
in danger.
Mhm.
They'll
Yeah,
feel in
yeah.
danger.
They
Absolutely.
think they're looking around for a brown van. Brown van. Be prepared to be searched down once you've entered the
Yeah.
plant. Anyway, that's the crazy. Um, and I see the blame game happening now amongst Democrats, amongst different demographics, but that is really not the thing you got to worry about, people. The thing you got to
Well,
worry about, honestly, is how do we organize and move forward from here. And I personally, I'm not going to shut up. I'm going to. I've been quiet because I feel like, hey, for self-preservation, it's been an issue. You don't want people to not work with you. You don't want people to work. But you know what? Um, while I will continue to be the smiley guy, I'm still going to point out, hey, That's not cool. You can't send my kid a text message like that. You can't behave like that. I remember all those people and their behavior during the last Trump presidency and how there was a lot of this, because we saw him do it, we thought we could do it too.
No,
Um,
that's another thing, that whoever is trying to behave like him, it's not going to work. They are
no,
not him.
yes, you
This
don't
kind
have
of
the money
bullish,
and the lawyers.
yes, and
and
the
the,
bullish behavior works only for him. That's what I said
yeah,
before.
yeah,
This time, it's a sad message that the bully won,
yeah,
but it's done. Right now, it's done, and we have to keep moving on because life
yes,
doesn't stop for anybody.
right.
Um, can we hope for miracle that the change will happen? We should always hope for miracles in our life, just like that's why I keep trying mega and and other things every week with hope, and that miracle will happen, and I
The
can do
price on that's
certain things.
going up, by the
you
way,
know
isn't it?
yeah, it is. I will still spend that money every week.
Which I don't understand. It's a lottery. How does it cost more money than they bring in?
They
It's like
actually did explain it. I don't remember right now, but they did explain it why. Uh,
that
look,
doesn't make any sense to
what
me.
you going to do? Go on strike and not to buy it? You know, you spending those $2, you're going to spend two more, and again, being hopeful. This is all about being hopeful. We are all hoping
I
for
guess so.
better tomorrow. We are all hoping for better future, not only for us but for our children. We are all hoping that people will watch us and subscribe. We are
Yeah,
all hoping that you know life will get better, and God help us all. God help him most of all.
that's the other thing. Like
You
I,
know,
I know there are Democrats who will be upset. Democratic people, and by the way, I'm an independent, who will be upset that I say, let him do what has to do. Okay, no matter what, he is still the president of the United States, and whether or not you respect him or not as a person, respect the office, and let's hope that we can move forward. And that's why a lot of the guys who used to work with him, who many of them either resigned or got fired,
or in
would
jail.
say, we're there to do the job. We respect the office. We're going to try to make the job work and do what it is. And hopefully, even though he might have a different way of doing things, hopefully he will be trying to do that in the way that will benefit the country as
It's
well
a
as him.
lot. It's a lot
In
at stake.
parentheses, he's doing things to help himself as well. But he helps
It's
the
too much. It's too much at stake around the
yes,
world. With situation
absolutely,
with Israel and Gaza and Ukraine and
yes,
Eastern Europe, it's a lot at stake.
it's
And yes, the illegal immigration in this country, it's a
yes,
huge issue
that's one thing.
that is causing a lot of upset, and the
Yes,
healthcare, and God only knows what else. So let's at this point, there is the only option. This is the only thing to do. We
yeah,
have to
do
be
it.
hopeful.
Yep,
We have to
and
be hopeful and pray for miracle.
let's hope he goes all the way through the 4 years, and we don't get the guy who supposedly sleeps with couches, right? Because that
I'm
would
sorry.
be another problem. We're not looking for that either.
Okay, I didn't. You're gonna have to explain that to me.
Apparently, there were rumors that JD Vance makes love to love seats or whatever it is. But there were unfounded
As
rumors.
long he won't touch mine, he
That's
can do whatever makes him happy. Look,
allegedly. It's not
I,
true. It's alleged. I don't know even how they came up with
it
that. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to get some help with your taxes, it's late, but it's still something you can do. NYTaxResolutions.com will help you out. You're going to check in with Agnes. She'll help you out with that. If you've got information or you've got a topic that you want to talk about, or you want to complain about this show, go ahead. Send it to mailbag at lovedeathandtaxes.com. I will delete you. Bye bye. And you guys have a great night. If you enjoyed this show, or even if you didn't, like and subscribe anyway. And I'll see you next week. Bye, Agnes.
Bye.